And we're talking with Martin and Lyndall, and coming back from the break, we're talking about maintaining emotional well-being. What is it we need to know? You know, you're talking about the doctor and etc. What is it we need to know in maintaining our emotional well-being?
I think you really need to connect with people closely. I think that's a fundamental thing. You think about ancient indigenous communities. They'd spend 3 or 4 hours a day gathering up a bit of taka together, and then they'd spend a lot of time telling stories, being close to each other. I think that's so tremendously, fundamentally important and frankly lacking.
Okay, well that actually brings me to another area, life-work balance. Can you comment on that one? We have such a stress society these days.
Driven by anxiety makes some more money. Yeah. And if you've got anxiety, you know, imagine having a tiger behind you and having all the chemicals pumping in your body for that long. Yeah, it's exhausting. You stay exhausted, anxious for a long time and be exhausted for a long time, trying to hide it. You're probably going to feel hollow, empty, and we call that depression.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that because I have, most of my clients are brief clients, but I do brief. Yeah, I do, like, it might only come 3 or 4 times to resolve an issue.
Because you do 2-hour sessions, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Why?
Because I think you can do a lot more in that period of time. And again, with culture today, people want a quick fix.
Okay.
They don't want to see somebody for a year ongoing a lot of times. But what I find is that I do have some people who come for what I call a mental massage, that they might come every 6 weeks or every couple of months, and they just want that feeling of massage. Same as you get a body massage, you can have a mental one.
Okay. So that's a maintenance thing yet again?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of them, only it's weekly.
So you get weekly?
Absolutely.
Yep. What about for you? How often do you have emotional?
The mental massage?
Yeah.
Probably every 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, it's a little bit different because I have tools that I give them, like CDs, to reinforce what we've done in the hypnotherapy with stress reduction that they use as well.
Okay, come back to that in a sec, because while we're on this part of the conversation, there's a lot of people out there who are on medication and having ongoing counselling.
Yep.
And of course, all the research has shown if people are going to be on medication, then at least also have counselling, because medication on its own does not make the difference. How does hypnotherapy and medication work?
Well, I've been trained by somebody called Michael Yapko, Dr. Michael Yapko, and he's, I think, one of the world experts in depression and hypnotherapy, and so I follow his model, and within that, it's a little bit more gentle, not so confronting, and very supportive type of hypnotherapy. And agreeing totally with what Martin said, if you're always anxious, then it leads to depression. So by getting the person into a really relaxed state also takes them away from the depression.
That's the contradiction.
Yeah, so with using hypnotherapy, you promote a relaxed, stress-free state.
Yeah. And how important is exercise in our day-to-day life?
Well, humans got to move. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
I think we do spend a fair bit too much time in lounge chairs, car chairs, office chairs, and bus seats. Yeah.
I read something the other day that said the way to lose weight was walking, water, and willpower.
Hey.
Oh, the 3 Ws.
Yes.
Walking, water, and willpower.
Yeah. And I think the therapy involved helps with the willpower. So, but people have to take on board that they have to put in effort with everything, whether it's straight counselling or anything.
So to speak.
I say to people all the time, medicine won't work if you leave it in the bottle. So you've got to do it.
Oh, even the medicine won't. It'll work if you get it out and it saves lives. But it's not if it's the only solution, it's not the solution. It has to keep on getting larger and larger and larger, and the symptoms, the side effects of it take over. I think one of the messages that's really important is that, yes, use medication. It does save lives. It's a very important part of mental health potentially. But if you don't do something differently, well, you'll just have to keep taking the medication.
Okay, well, speaking of medication, that leads me on. ADD, ADHD, children.
Yes.
You want to comment on that one?
Attention deficit disorder. the deficit of attention is the disorder. So my thinking is give them attention and the deficit isn't there. What I've found is, and these kids are particularly the case, if you pay them really strong attention and put them in charge of the play that you have with them, they tend to think clearer, and when they're thinking clearer, they don't do the attention deficit disorder thing as much.
Okay, because if we go back to, you know, our childhoods, etc., ADD, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, etc.,
Very naughty
didn't
boy.
seem to be around to the degree it is today. Why has it reared this?
Oh, I think it's... I feel heretical saying it, and I do have to be careful about it, but in essence it seems like an easy solution. Here's a Ritalin, that'll solve the problem, and it does. Here's a story for you. I know a woman who gave her son Ritalin. He was really wild beforehand, gave him the Ritalin, he was an angel. 2 months later she realised he hadn't smiled for 2 months.
Oh, gosh.
It knocks the star shapes off
Yeah.
to leave you with a plug that'll fit into the whole, the gaps that's there.
Yeah, and I think also the consequence is that if you medicate a child too much, that later on when they are no longer children, they find self-medication a really good solution instead of having tools to deal with their normal emotions.
So therefore they at risk of being emotionally retarded? No.
That they feel that emotions are sometimes inappropriate because they haven't learned how to deal with anger. They haven't learned how to deal with fear or anxiety. So they just think that there will always be a solution in either alcohol or drugs or even still formal medication.
The actual diagnosis actually makes it worse in a sense because it pathologises the child. And now you meet them when they're 30 and 40 and they don't feel good about themselves.
Okay. How important do you feel as counsellors and therapists to, for example, seek counselling assistance when there's been a death in the family? How important do you think that is?
Well,
take it easy with the death one. Yeah.
I agree. I think you've got to go through a natural healing. And I've often had, again, it comes back to, we're taught that a lot of feelings aren't appropriate. Like with a death, oh, well, you've got a week off, deal with it. And it doesn't...
You mean you want a week and a half?
And I think I had somebody with me the other day and it was a mother and daughter and they were having a few issues and they weren't realising that they had both lost, well, a grandmother and a mother, and it was a very close family member, and they weren't giving themselves time to actually go through the process. And I think it's cultural for Australians as well. We're not the European model that has the grieving process, or the Jewish people with the Wailing Wall and things like that.
Or the Indigenous model where the family's looked after for the first 12 months by the tribe.
That's it. Yeah.
To go through that grieving
aspect. Seems like a really
aspect.
smart way of going about things.
Yeah, so I think...
Counselling can be useful when there's a complicated grief issue going on, where you know, you hated your dad and he died, you know, figure it out. There is scope for counselling in there, and there is scope for counselling in where the grief has become problematic to you, where the people have given up on you, there's no resources left anymore. Yeah, counselling then, but not as an automatic response to grief.
Okay, we're just about come to the end of the show. A couple of last words to our viewers for both of you. Lyndall, you first.
You put me on the spot.
Absolutely.
I just think people, if they address their issues in the early stages, whether it's behaviour modification, like they smoke too much or drink too much, or anger management, before it gets to be critical for them, and to know that when they come to see a counsellor through the New South Wales Counselling Association, that we're trained to care, and that's part of our duty, is a duty of care, and we will care.
Okay, thank you. And a few words from you?
Feelings aren't so scary. You know, once you get used to them, sadness and joy coincide, excitement and scared coincide. Feeling them won't kill you, and in fact it'll help you think clearer and clearer. And coinciding with the pro-counselling message, using a professional, you can be safe and secure in sharing any of the things that you're uncomfortable with, and realising that they're not so difficult for you. You can work with them.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on the program today.
Thank you.
And if you would like more details on either Lyndall or Martin, please go to the conversationswithrobin.com website. You'll find links there, plus links to all our other excellent guests. And I hope today's program has given a lot of you permission to, as Martin says, feel the feelings. And if there is something that's not quite working for you, perhaps start asking for help. And maybe the New South Wales Counselling Association is a great start. Take care. See you again.